we have multiple major updates in regards to the Toronto Raptors' pursuit of landing a new president of basketball operations after parting ways with Masai Ujiri. We have some insights in terms of how likely Bobby Webster is to land the role, as well as some outside candidates that are being whispered about to actually land the position. So we're going to dive into all of these latest updates. What's going on with this extremely important decision in Toronto Raptors basketball history, and make sure to stay at the end because there are some very interesting names that are getting floated around for this role. But before we dive into that, folks, make sure you guys, if you want to listen to Raptors Digest on the go, listen to your daily dose of, Raptors news twice a day, 3 times a day, whatever the heck it is. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, because Raptors Digest, every audio, video file, they are all getting uploaded there right as these videos go up. So make sure you guys check all of that out. Leave a 5-star review if you are enjoying the daily Toronto Raptors coverage. It means the world to me, and hope to check you guys out there on YouTube, wherever the heck it is. But let's dive into the news, because frankly, there is a lot of interesting stuff going on in the Raptors' reported hunt to land their next president of basketball operations. Keith Pelley came out and said when Masai Ujiri was fired that they are going to find a new person to lead this rebuild, lead this recharge, and turn this team around. And while Bobby Webster's in consideration, according to Keith Pelley, we've already covered on the channel, we have some new reports and insights into what's going on. So let's dive into some of those. Firstly, it's coming from Ryan Wilstad, saying that Ujiri built a very diverse front office, complete with a little bit of everything, ranging from a jack of all trades with a specialty in cap management in Bobby Webster, lots of people with scouting background, someone who's in media relations and scouting in Dan Tolzman, people in analytics, former journalists, all of it the Toronto Raptors had in their front office. But the one thing that they don't have is a former agent in a prominent position, and that's been the trendy thing to do in the NBA for a while now, like Leon Rose in New York. To that end, Bob Myers could be a great candidate, but can't imagine Rodgers would meet the price, and he'd want to move his family at this point, but you never know. So this is the first really just interesting insight, because Keith Pelley in his press conference following the departure of Masai Ujiri was very, very adamant that they want someone who's an elite businessman in a prominent position out there in the NBA. And when you combine that with the latest for what Ryan Wilside is saying here now at this point, you could put the 2 and 2 together, that really looking at an agent out there in their front office to bring into the mix, the outside in that has, relationships all across the league as a promised businessman. Of course, being an agent, you're building up clientele, you're doing all those types of things. That really fits hand in hand what we were directly told from the horse's mouth, the CEO of MLSE, Keith Pelley here. That is very, very intriguing. And you see how the Raptors front office, it has, a combination of capologists and Bobby Webster, media guys, scouting guys, all of those types of things. They don't have someone that specifically fills that role. And bringing in a president of basketball operations that does that and keeping Bobby Webster out there at the GM position is, something that is intriguing and something to definitely take a look at, paired in combination with what Keith Pelley had to say in this press conference. And to go on to build on top of this, ideally they'd find an agent type to work under Webster and maybe even Dan Tolzman, but not sure how likely that is. As you mentioned, it's tough. As mentioned, it's tough to hire someone that's above, as they say, usually to do. It's tough to hire someone above, as they usually do want their own people. And I think Bobby Webster and Dan Tolzman are more than deserving of showing what they can do at the top 2 roles. Both are extremely well regarded across the NBA. So essentially what he's saying with this is, ideally, Bobby Webster, Dan Tolzman get promoted. They've been doing a great job in-house. They've been doing great work. And frankly, that's who I want to be in the president of basketball operations for this team. He's been the understudy in Masai Ujiri we've seen in recent videos. They didn't always agree on stuff. It'll be a different philosophy. It won't be just Masai Ujiri 2.0, but he has earned that role. He's been great. He's been phenomenal and already has that relationship with the organization. So I still stand on Bobby Webster being that guy. But bringing in, if Bobby Webster's there, you bring an agent type. Usually people want to bring in their own people, or you have a sort of role where it's, hey, you have a president of basketball operations, and then that can be flipped where you have a new president and then everyone else has their roles filled out. They might try to navigate, make some changes, make some adjustments in order to bring in their people, to build out their front office. So if Bobby Webster's not promoted, I take this report and discussion as more of a concerning thing, because while Bobby Webster is extended, he, could be on his way out if the president of basketball operations isn't happy with that specific relationship, especially where Bobby Webster is in the hunt to get that president of basketball operations, so might view him as actual competition. So that's one thing to take into account there. Additionally, I'm not the only one that's thought a former or current NBA agent is most likely to come aboard, but don't know the specific candidates. Another idea is a veteran presence in the mix, which was lost when Jeff Weltman went to the Orlando Magic years ago. Someone with decades of experience in management, as the great Wayne Embry is not a daily presence with the franchise. So Wayne Embry's been a guy that's been in the mix, helping out the front office over the last few years, so he's not, of course, going to become the president of basketball operations, I don't imagine. And Jeff Weltman was a crucial piece to the Raptors front office before he got the full-time gig as the lead dog out there with the Orlando Magic, and frankly, he's done a really good job, especially over the past couple of seasons. So that's something that, could be another factor, and I think Bob Myers is definitely the guy that, if we're looking at perfect candidates, perfect fits, and already discussed in this discourse, if we're bringing a new guy from the outside in, Bob Myers is the perfect guy. But as Wolstat brought up, if Edward Rogers isn't going to pay Masai Ujiri, a guy that brought you a championship, it was in-house, you see the work that he's doing day in, day out, I doubt Edward Rogers is going to fork up the money to bring in a guy that has said, he's enjoying his role as gig on ESPN because he's more flexible, he stays with his family and stuff, and has turned down opportunities with the Phoenix Suns after departing. If you're not familiar with this guy, he constructed that Golden State Warriors dynasty that, of course, won 4 NBA championships, and with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, all those dudes. So, of course, with his resume, he is going to command a high price tag, and one of the reasons they fired Masai is Edward Rogers did not want to, give some major contracts to these types of dudes. So, if we're going outside of the franchise, Bobby Webster's my number one, but outside the franchise, Bob Myers is my top guy, my top dog in terms of who would be the perfect fit, but might be an unrealistic option in terms of actual money getting dished out from this ownership group. So, The last thing we're taking a look at, the last update on this is, an outside the box one. What about Steve Nash? Though it would mean that you could shut down all those RJ Barrett trade rumors since Nash is his godfather. And this is the one very interesting name because Steve Nash, of course, a brilliant basketball mind, one of the greatest. Shea may have eclipsed him now at this point with the season he just had, but 3 years ago, by definitely the best Canadian basketball player of all time. Steve Nash is, an icon and stuff. Did have a very questionable coaching tenure with the Brooklyn Nets. I think it's tough to actually judge how good of a coach he was, being on that Nets team because, of course, it's, they had a very weird team. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, all of those guys out there in the mix. I don't even know if Ben Simmons on the roster when Nash was there. I believe he was. But a lot of tough mixing personalities when they were on that group. So Nash definitely would fit the bill of a very prominent guy. Businessman, I'm not sure all of his business outings. I mean, the Mind the Game pod is very public-facing and stuff, but, Steve Nash, definitely a name to keep a lookout because he's been known to get involved in different things, whether it be broadcasting, whether it be coaching, as we saw with the Brooklyn Nets, and definitely would be an intriguing name to bring into the mix. Probably wouldn't have, a crazy price tag, just given his previous experience and stuff. Definitely a guy that I wouldn't mind, in terms of coming in and filling the role for this Toronto Raptors team. But, of course, it would be, it'd be interesting. It'd be a high-risk, high-reward thing with Steve Nash. But let me know what you guys think about all these potential options, what you're hearing, what you're seeing out there on this pursuit of the next president of basketball operations. You guys best make this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.